So, like, I always knew, like, since I was an adult, that I was going to have a child. And it's probably the only thing that was programmed. Like, everything else I did was just like, oh, let me just try this. And it was the only thing that I had put like a time or a date to, that, okay, I should have a baby when I'm 30. And so it wasn't really disruptive in that way, like personally or professionally. Like, I didn't see it as this thing that was coming to disrupt, because this is part of the plan, right? I need to just do it and get it over with. And so it was interesting because when I did get pregnant, I was very big on like, I don't want anyone to think like anything is going to change just because I have a baby or just because I'm pregnant. And what's interesting, like for some, I live my life very social media open and authentic. I didn't tell anyone on social media that I was pregnant. And like, I didn't make a public announcement. I just, lived. And I knew that my clients would be concerned about potential, how my going away from maternity leave or getting pregnant might change or impact quality. And so really that's where most of my focus was. It was like, I need to let them know like they're in good hands. So I planned in advance, hired like a new team. Before I was like, maybe months before I was leaving, I'd already hired a new team who knew as they were coming on board that, I'm going to be gone for half of this and I'm going to need you guys to do X, Y, Z, and here's what I need to be accomplished. So I had 3 people. I had a business manager, then I had a project manager, and then I had my assistant. And they were quite solid. Like, one of the people who I hired, Chris, went to a Shashi, and everybody knows, like, if you go to Shashi, you're correct people. And he really was. And he and the other lady, whose name I can't remember now, I want to say her name was Priscilla, they knew I was leaving and they were really supportive. Now when I think back, I think it was crazy to think that like nothing's going to change or to be worried about change, right? That I think that was like a ridiculous burden to place on myself, that like, oh, I'm gonna have a baby, but I need the client to know that nothing's gonna change. Of course, something is changing. I'm bringing life into the world, and it requires change. But no, that's not how I was thinking. I was just like thinking about client service delivery. Like, we need to protect the client, need to make sure that their investment is set, et cetera, et cetera. And also being very acutely aware that like my client portfolio wasn't very diverse. Because the size of the contract was so big, I didn't have to look for business all the time because I knew like this was set. And now that I was about to have a baby, this set thing was now my bread and butter, right? That's how I'm going to earn money to take care of my kid. So I saved some money before I left, went, had the baby. I think in total I was in the US for about 6 months. And when I came to Ghana, of course, like everything had changed for me. I still, did work, and the client was still there and still supportive, and there was still trust. But I feel like I felt the volatility of the relationship with just one client a lot more once I had Olu. Because now it was like, wait, if this contract ends, that's it, right? I'm not gonna have any money. I'm not gonna have a job. And I didn't want to wait until something happened with that relationship for me to start thinking about, okay, I need more clients to take away the like over-reliance on this one. I'd had other clients in the years, but none had been none had lasted that long. People would come in for like short contracts, we'd do the work, we'll finish the project, and that was it. And so that's when I started thinking about, well, how do I grow my business beyond this like one big client portfolio? Because the client also had, by year 4, I was handling multiple brands. So I was handling Printex, Fratelli, and Calipo. So it wasn't just the one textile brand. I was now doing beverages. And so I'm like, can I expand in Ghana? Yeah, I know people here, but do I really want to go? Can I go around and look for business in Ghana? So I started doing that. But I found that like while, I would get the meetings and like engage, etc., I wasn't closing. I wasn't closing. And I don't know why I wasn't closing, right? Like the conversation would end well, but it didn't materialize into contracts. Eventually I found I co-founded another company with some friends called Magic Unlimited, with some Ghanaian friends in the hopes that I could rely on their local business network and relationships while I could deliver on service and, the expertise that I had. But they were still also already engaged with their own other businesses. So in a way, like, we did close one client, which was like the Ghana Heritage and Conservation Trust, which handles Kakun Park and Cape Coast and like a bunch of like major monuments off of their like relationship. And then I did delivery. But there just wasn't enough of that, you know what I mean, to sustain it. So we dissolved that. And then I was like, well, how do I tap into my Vicky Ramones, my reputation, my brand? And it meant I had to come home. So in 2016, I decided to come back to Sierra Leone. I had left in 2011. So like 5 years after I left, decided to come back to see about registering my business in Sierra Leone. So I came, registered it here in 2016. And as luck would have it, I was in like another hotel in the lobby working. And so it's like my MO, was like find a hotel with internet and just sprawl. And someone saw me there who I had interviewed like years ago on my TV show. It's like, hey, aren't you into like branding stuff? I was like, yeah. And they were like, oh, I'd want you to meet the MD of Sierra Leone Brewery. His name was Willie in Ghana. And he was from, I think, Congo DRC. And so somebody introduced us and he was like, yeah, they're looking for potentially somebody to do branding and marketing. I should come see him on Friday. My flight was the next day. And so I was like, damn, do I like cancel my flight or go see this man? So I canceled my flight, because listen, me, I like to make money. So when there's an opportunity, I will go after it. So I moved my flight a week later and I went to see him at brewery. And he told me about a new product they wanted to launch called King Leone, which was a new beer, which was going to have like more alcohol content. I think regularly the alcohol content is like 5. This was going to have like 7.5. And they also had Musique as this other beer on their portfolio that he felt like wasn't getting enough like brand attention or reach in the market, and asked if I could do a proposal to see what I could do. So I was like, sure. Went back, worked on the pitch, submitted it, and eventually like closed Sierra Leone Brewery, which is major. Because, this is like the Heineken subsidiary in Sierra Leone and the Guinness subsidiary. Actually, Sierra Leone is the only country where Guinness and Heineken are managed by the same people. So for me, I was just like, what? And one key thing, which I always meant a lot to me, is that when I was talking about going after this account, I remember a friend telling me that like, I would have to pay a bribe. Like, there's no way I was going to be able to close any business in Sierra Leone without paying a bribe. And I was just like, I haven't had to pay bribes in Ghana. So there's no way I'm going to pay a bribe in Sierra Leone. If I don't get it, I don't get it. But I'm not going to work this way. And I remember in my pitch, I actually put it there that like, if anybody asks me for kickbacks, I will, amplify it and I will escalate it to management that I'm here to protect the client's investments and I'm here to be the change that I wish to see in Sierra Leone. I remember I was there. And it was funny because after I signed the contract with Sierra Leone Brewery, the MD Willie said to me that it was the first time anyone had he had done business with anybody in Sierra Leone that had like a business ethics statement in their pitch. And that even though like, yeah, it was really creative, there was something about that convinced him that like, you know, to work with me. And I was just like, okay, girl. So we closed that, and it was it was like a key account. So now we had, you know, this big account in Ghana, and we had this big account here. After that, closed a couple more accounts in Sierra Leone. It was like 2016 and 2017 was a really, really big year. And it felt like graduating, you know, I felt like I'd spent this first 4 to 5 years in Ghana, you know, learning, prepping, preparing. And then coming back to Sierra Leone, felt like, okay, like I'm graduating now, like I'm really doing this.